2 words, just 2 words, and yet they might have the most consequential 2 words that you'll ever string together, not because of grammar or even poetry, but because of what you attach to them. Like, I'm tired, I am stuck, I am not good enough, or I'm capable, I am becoming, I'm exactly who this moment requires. Same 2 words, completely different lives. Today on Mind Your Business, we're going deep. And we're talking about what Neville Goddard called the most sacred declaration a human being can make. And we're pulling him from the Stoics, from Scripture, from Viktor Frankl's experience in the darkest corners of human suffering. And we're going to apply it practically, honestly, in your business, in your leadership, and in your life. So let's go. Welcome to Mind Your Business. I'm Steve Wagner. If you haven't encountered Neville Goddard, here's a quick backstory. He was a Barbadian American mystic, a teacher who lived from 1905 to 1972. He wasn't a philosopher in the academic sense. He wasn't a theologian by training. He was a man who had a profound spiritual awakening and then spent decades teaching anyone who would listen that the human imagination is not a nice to have. It's the primary creative force of your reality. Neville's work, particularly in his books, The Power of Awareness and Your Faith is Your Fortune, centers on one big idea. Your concept of yourself, your I am, is the blueprint in which your life is constructed. Neville Goddard said in his book, The Power of Awareness, man's concept of himself is the determining factor in his experience. Notice he didn't say your actions are a determining factor. He didn't say your circumstances, your background, or your connections. He said your concept of yourself, what you believe to be true about who you are. Now, some of you are already nodding, and others might be a little skeptical, and okay, that's all good, because before we go deeper into Neville, let me show you that this idea didn't start with him. Now, the origins of I am in Scripture. In Exodus chapter 3, verse 14, goes back thousands of years. Moses encounters a burning bush. He asks who he is speaking to, and the response he receives doesn't give a proper name or a title or resume. The response is, I am who I am. Say this to the people of Israel. I am has sent me to you. Neville was obsessed with this passage. He believed this wasn't just theology, it was instruction. The great creative force in the universe doesn't identify by what it has done. It identifies by pure being. I am. Present tense. Unconditional, eternal. And here's where Neville gets striking. He says that when you say I am, you are invoking the same creative force within yourself. You are, in that moment, participating in a divine act of self-definition. And what you attach to those words becomes, over time, a lived reality. That's not metaphor. That's not poetry. That is, if you sit with it, one of the most sobering ideas you've ever heard. Now let's walk across to the Stoics, because they're circling the same truth from a different angle. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, journaling quietly in the middle of wars and pandemics and political chaos, wrote this: the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. But Marcus went further. He didn't just talk about positive thinking. He distinguished between what is up to us and what is not. The Stoics called this the dichotomy of control. Circumstances, not up to us. Our judgments, our character, our self-definition is entirely up to us. Epictetus, who began his life as a literal slave, put it this way, and this is one lands kind of hard. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it, and that matters. A man who had no control over his body, his circumstances, his legal status, chose who he was. That's the Stoic version of I am. You cannot always choose what happens to you. You can always choose what you tell yourself about who you are in response to it. Neville would say that inner declaration is where your life is actually authored. Now, let's talk about Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl survived Auschwitz. He lost his wife, his parents, nearly everything. And what he discovered is the most unimaginable conditions in the 20th century was this: everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Frankl wasn't a mystic, he was a psychiatrist, and he arrived at the same place as Neville Goddard and the Stoics. The interior life, who you believe yourself to be, is the last and most powerful territory any human being possesses. He noticed that the prisoners who survived, not all of them, not with certainty, but disproportionately, were ones who held on to the sense of meaning, the sense of identity, that guards that could strip away. I am still a husband. I am a physician. I am still a man with a future. I am, even in death camps, was the thing that they couldn't take. Now, here's assumptions and awareness. Back to Neville. Because he took this further than most, he didn't just say, think positive. He said, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Live from the end, not towards your goal. From it. Here's what that means practically. Neville would say that if you want to be a great leader, don't say, I'm trying to become a great leader. That plants the seed of lack. Instead, walk into a room already feeling like one. Let your inner posture say, I am someone who leads with clarity, conviction, not someday, now. Neville Goddard said, assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled and observe the route that your attention follows. Now, I want to be honest with you here, because this is where some people get tripped up. This isn't about deceptive or toxic positivity. Neville wasn't saying pretend your problems don't exist. He was saying don't let your problems define your identity. There's a crucial difference between acknowledging a difficult season and declaring yourself to be the difficulty. I am in a tough quarter is very different from I am a failing leader. One is a weather report and the other is a life sentence, and you're the one handing it down. James Clear in Atomic Habits makes a point that is very Neville adjacent, even if he'd probably never frame it in the same way. He distinguishes between outcome-based habits and identity-based habits. Most people, he says, try to change their behavior first and hope their identity follows. The highest performers flip it. Now, James Clear said, the most effective way to change your habits is to focus not on what you want to achieve, but on who you wish to become. Each small action, Clear argues, is the vote cast for the identity you're building. You don't become a reader by reading 1,000 books. You read because you are a reader. The behavior flows from the identity. Neville would stand up and applaud. Centuries apart, same principle. Consciousness first, action follows. Now, here's the applications for leaders and entrepreneurs. Let's make this actionable. Here are 4 I am disciplines I want you to take from this episode and put into practice. 1. Audit your I am statements. For one day, notice every time you say I am aloud or in your head. Not to judge yourself, just to see, because you can't change what you're not aware of. Stoic praxis starts with observation. 2. Write your identity declaration. Not a goal list, not a vision board, a declaration. Who are you? Not who you're trying to become. Write it in the present tense. I am the leader who, fill in the blank. I am the person who, fill in that blank. Neville believed that writing from completion is writing from the real. Number 3, close the gap between statement and sensation. Here's where Neville gets practical. It's not enough to say the words. You have to feel the truth of them. Sit for 5 minutes in that feeling. What does it feel like to already be the thing you're declaring? The embodiment, the sensation, is the signal that begins to reshape your behavior. Number 4, protect your I am from others' opinions. Marcus Aurelius would say, other people's assessments of you are not your business unless you choose to make them so. Epictetus would agree. When someone tells you who you are, a skeptic, a dreamer, not the right fit, you have a choice about whether to pick that up and carry it, or you do not have to. Now here's where I want to land this. Moses asked God for a name, and God said, I am. Not I was, not I will be when things get easier, not I am except when the market is tough, or the team is struggling, or the season is hard. I am, full stop, present, eternal, unconditional. Neville Goddard believed that was an invitation, not just a theological declaration, an invitation to claim the same for yourself, not arrogantly, not delusionally, but with a quiet and deep conviction that who you are is not a product of your circumstances. It's the source of them. Stoics built empires and survived slavery from the same soil. Viktor Frankl found meaning in death camps from the same soil. James Clear built a worldwide movement on behavior change from the same soil. And you have access to that same ground. So here's your question for the week. And I want you to sit with it. Write it down. Bring it into your business, your leadership, and your home. Who are you declaring yourself to be? And does the way you show up every day, your choices, your words, your habits match that declaration? Because if there's a gap, and there almost always is, that's not failure, that's the work. That's the beautiful, ongoing, never quite finished work of building a life on purpose. That's what we're here to do. That's what you're here to do. Mind your business. Mind your identity. Mind your I am. If this episode resonated, share it with someone in your life who needs to hear it. And subscribe and leave a comment below and let me know how this is working. And I will see you next time on Mind Your Business. And remember, keep your mindset strong.